Hello everyone, my name is Joseph, and today I will introduce the life of one of, if not the greatest English poet of all time, Geoffrey Chaucer. I will cover his background, writing, his personal life, as well as other aspects. His family members were middle-class English people with connections in London and the court. His father was an important London vintner and a deputy to the king's butler. His family's financial success derived from wine and leather. The name Chaucer is derived from the French word chaussier, which is a maker of shoes. Chaucer used his knowledge of medieval books and observations of daily life on many levels. He employed his understanding of astrology and subsidiary sciences as they were taught to influence human behavior. Although there haven't been any recorded documents regarding his early education, it is certain that he is fluent in many languages. He is known to be fluent in French and Middle English, as well as being fairly competent in Latin and Italian. His writings show a clear familiarity with the books written in his time. He was later depicted in a portrait by Thomas Hockley. It shows him, an old man with white hair. He has a fresh complexion, gray eyes, a straight nose, a gray mustache, and a small double-pointed beard. His dress and hood are black, and he carries in his hands a string of beads. We may imagine that it was thus that during the last months of his life he used to walk around the precincts of the abbey. Chaucer's greatest literary accomplishment of the 1390s was the Canterbury Tales. In it, a group of about 30 pilgrims gather at the Tabard Inn in Southwark, across the Thames from London, and agree to engage in a storytelling contest as they travel on horseback to the shrine of Thomas A. Becket in Canterbury, Kent, and back. Chaucer did not complete the full plan of his book. The return journey from Canterbury is not included, and some of the pilgrims do not tell stories. Further, the surviving manuscripts leave room for doubt at some points as to Chaucer's intent for arranging the material. However, their work is still sufficient to be considered a complete book. His writings were comprised of three parts: French, Italian, and English. His first poems were French, in the middle years were two major works in Italian, and final works were in Middle English. Geoffrey Chaucer's childhood was in a time of the Black Death, hence the threat of death being a prevailing theme within his work. There hasn't been a narrative in which a major character does not die, nearly die, or have thoughts of dying. Regardless of genre, from comedy, history, to tragedy or romance, Chaucer made it clear that sudden death was always a possibility, and people will wait for opportunities from the result of someone else's death. Dante, a famous Italian writer during his time, was an inspiration for Chaucer. Troilus and Cressida was regarded as one of Chaucer's best works, a tragedy of love, fate, and free will. This was followed from Dante's writing style. Italian writers Petrarch and Boccaccio have inspired Chaucer as well. Chaucer wrote the Canterbury Tales in a key time of transition from mainly oral culture of speaking stories to literate print culture. This was known as the manuscript culture by Marshall McLuhan, which incorporated both oral and written culture of writing. Chaucer was able to use a conversational tone while writing the poem, unique and last of its kind. This also explains the ability to act out the characters of the poem in plays, as qualities of the poem were to preserve the same sense of the connection between the writer and the audience. Geoffrey Chaucer was also busy outside his writing life. He has been at one point a yeoman of the king, listed among the king's esquires, as well as going on diplomatic missions. He was also in military service and was an official mourner alongside his wife for the death of Queen Philippa. His prosperous career was also further proof of his connections to high positions. Some time before 1366, Chaucer married Philippa Roet, a lady in waiting to the position of the queen. It was during this time Chaucer composed one of his first works, Book of the Duchess. Details regarding Chaucer's children are not clear, though by the end of the 15th century there are no descendants of Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer was buried in Westminster Abbey in the Poets' Corner alongside many other English poets. The Canterbury Tales ranks as one of the greatest poetic works of the English language. Chaucer has also made significant contributions to the management of public affairs as a courtier, diplomat, and civil servant. He served three successive kings: Edward III, Richard II, and Henry IV. His writing ability was not matched until the arrival of William Shakespeare 200 years after his death. Chaucer's works are so important that 600 years after his death, the Canterbury Tales is still a widely read poem. Thank you for listening to my in-depth background regarding the life of Geoffrey Chaucer.